Our power is rooted in our past. And our past is complicated. We are all plants sprouting from the fertile ground of pain, joy, fear, hope, and trauma, blooming and blossoming into our own unique flowers, growing tall like trees, strong like mountains. One of D&D's greatest strengths, especially in 5th edition, is that it helps us create characters that are strong, that are brilliant, incredible, beautiful even, and allows us to weave tales that tell the stories of these incredible individuals that we've crafted. Our D&D characters have the time to grow out of the pain of their past and become the fullest versions of themselves, which is something I think we all want for ourselves as well. Talk about the ultimate fantasy, character growth. But what is truly miraculous about D&D is that this culture of creative fulfillment has grown up around this game in spite of the game itself doing very little to actually help us do it. The new update, this revised version, 5R as I like to call it, has a few extra tools to set us on the way. But other than that, the game mostly focuses on character powers and what you can do, not who you are. And I find it really amazing that through natural progression, we as a player base became curious about who these people were. We became curious about telling stories. But D&D is not the only TTRPG, though its energy and culture affects the entire industry, and this growing convention of epic character-driven storytelling has rippled throughout the world, and hosts of designers have crafted games that do help players tell those stories. So today, I want to do just that for D&D. I want to take a mechanic inspired by the frankly awesome Prequel, a game on Kickstarter right now, and who are kindly sponsoring this video, and I want to make something that you will need to add into your games in one shape or another. Now, I've decided that the thing that we really need in D&D, the thing that's gonna fix all these problems, the thing that's gonna introduce more storytelling into the game is an ultimate. Can you tell I've been playing Rivals? Why ultimates? Okay, but why do we need ultimates? And how is this gonna contribute to D&D and especially D&D storytelling? Well, one, because I'm bored. I've been playing D&D every week between 2 to 5 times a week since 2018. I am constantly still surprised by how many new things I find, but currently, I'm in a slump on new stuff. Even with all these new books coming out, let me know if you want my thoughts on those in the comments down below, by the way. I still find much of D&D samey, so let's mix it up. But I think that ultimates, and in particular the ultimates that I'm bringing to the table with a fiction-first storytelling mechanic inspired by Prequel, my goal is to give our players 2 things that I feel are a little lacking in D&D. The first is something to look forward to outside of leveling up, and the second is giving the players a mechanical imperative to tell their story. That was a mouthful, but I promise it will become clear. So I've gone in and I've made ultimates for each class. Now, 2 of them I have up in my last Saturday something in their untested forum on my Patreon right now at patreon.com/milesawaygames. If you're watching this video a little late, they're probably free, so go check it out. And consider pledging to get early access to all of my blog posts. The rest of them have been reserved for my super secret limited playtesting tier, and I'm hoping to, with the help of my awesome playtesters, publish them all by the end of the year. But let's dive into the 2 I made first. Let's talk about how I went about making them. Let's talk about why I think these powerful abilities need a cost to use them and what that cost is. Part 1, building power. I started by looking at the class rules, especially the epic boons and the capstones. And it really didn't help. Now, don't get me wrong, all the epic boons and capstones are very cool, at least most of them. Just all of them are kind of a small nudge. All of them feel like another stepping stone on a ladder with 20 rungs. They're all very reasonable. And I gotta be honest, I don't want an ultimate to be reasonable. I want something that feels unique, that feels special, game-changing, and truly epic, and that plays to the heart of the story that the class orbits around, the essence the writers have tried to capture in their initial blurb about each class. For example, barbarians are mighty warriors who are powered by primal forces of the multiverse that manifest as a rage. More than a mere emotion, and not limited to anger, this rage is an incarnation of a predator's ferocity, a storm's fury, and a sea's turmoil. Boom. I read that, and I know what I'm getting into when I roll up a barbarian. I want my ultimates to feel like the culmination of that. So I started with the class that I'm most familiar with the story of. I made a whole video about it, Zap, the Ranger, and I dug in. Now, the Ranger is described in the new PHB as such. Far from the bustling cities, amid the trees of trackless forests and across wide plains, Rangers keep their unending watch in the wilderness. Rangers learn to track their quarry as a predator does, moving stealthily through the wilds and hiding themselves in brush and rubble. So, according to this, Rangers do three things very well. They protect the wild, and by extension, creatures and places they care about. They track their foe well, focusing on a single target, and they move stealthily, able to blend into the landscape. Very cool, and that feels like how I imagine the Ranger, and exactly like the Ranger that I want to play. I then look into the class and find what I would call the core mechanic. Now, each class has one of these, and it's the thing they have that no other class has, that they get access to right away. The most recognizable example is probably the Barbarian's Rage. Now in 5R, the Ranger's core mechanic is their special use of Hunter's Mark, where they get to cast the spell without expending a spell slot, and they always have it prepared. So putting all this together, I instantly have two ideas for core Ranger ultimates. Now first, I want an ult that dives in on Hunter's Mark, allowing them to turn the focus on one foe up to 11. Next, I want an ult that's gonna kind of work into the more stealthy guerrilla fighter aspect of the Ranger, something that makes them feel like the untouchable master of striking and fading. So I got down to business and I hammered out two abilities, thinking I'd find one to be way cooler than the other and it would like make the choice clear, but what I realized very quickly is that I want players to have access to both of them. In fact, in an ideal world, I'd love to give players access to two core ultimates from level 1, and from level 5 on, I'd love to add an additional one for each subclass. So whenever you hit your ult threshold and it's fully charged, you can choose one of these various different options so that there's no I got locked out of it situationality kind of built into the mechanic. Will I build all of that? 6 ultimates for every class? I don't know. Depends on how much y'all like this. So if this is your vibe, comment. I really won't know if you think this is cool unless you tell me. Now you can check out what I made on the Patreon, but here's the skinny. The Big Game Hunter is my single target ult for the Ranger. As an action, you make an attack against a foe that automatically hits. I didn't want the ult failing if you didn't hit, like skill shots are cool in MOBAs, but not in a game where you get to ult once every few weeks. Then after choosing your target, you get to move toward or away from them. And the ultimate automatically casts Hunter's Mark on that target without expending a use or a spell slot, and you don't have to concentrate on it for the next 3 rounds. During that time, the marked target is the prey. You know where they are no matter what, they cannot hide from you, and in addition, the Ranger's damage from attacks cannot be resisted or negated due to immunity, and all of the Ranger's attack damage has the potential to explode. This means that if you roll the maximum number on a damage die, you automatically get to roll another die of that same size and add that to your damage total. Dice can explode any number of times, so the theoretical damage cap is way higher, in fact infinite, and critical hits get even more critical. Now I made another one, the one for the sneaky guerrilla stuff, but I don't have the time for it here, so you'll have to head over to the Patreon to check that one out. I loved how this was feeling, but D&D is so much more than damage, so I skipped off to one of those classes the internet can't seem to decide on, the Bard. Now, the Bard does literally everything, which makes them a challenge for this particular exercise. Invoking magic through music, dance, and verse, Bards are expert at inspiring others, soothing hurts, disheartening foes, and creating illusions. Bards believe the multiverse was spoken into existence and the remnants of its words of creation still resound and glimmer on every plane of existence. Bardic magic attempts to harness those words which transcend any language. Okay, one, that's a mouthful, which is very bardy of them. And two, that gives me a general sense, but it's all a little too, there's too much going on, which is very typical bard. But there are a couple things in there that I love. There's inspiring others and disheartening foes, and I think those are ideal for our purposes. The bard can heal and illuse, sure, but practically its core mechanic is bardic inspiration, which lets the bard help the other party members do things better. So with that as my guiding light, I made Muse of Battle. This ability lasts for 3 rounds, you're getting a pattern here, but it gives bardic inspiration on every d20 test the party makes within 30 feet of the bard. And not just that, and this I am really proud of, but if the bardic inspiration causes the party member to do especially well and they beat the DC they're up against by more than 10, they get even more out of the ult, depending on what type of test it was. So there's the abilities. I've written them, they exist, they're cool, at least I think they're cool, but remember the cost. Ultimates have to cost something, and my goal here was to connect them to storytelling in a mechanical way. And here's where we get into the real meat of this video, because I've stolen what I think are the juiciest bits of one mechanic from Prequel, which is a one-shot TTRPG that just funded on Kickstarter and which I got to try out and has some seriously cool mechanics and an amazing premise. Part 2, Prequel to Power. So let's start by getting a little bit of background on Prequel before I adapt it into my system. In Prequel, you play a group of doomed heroes at the end of their journey as they face off against their final adversary. Your party will fall, but depending on how well you play, you will create opportunities for the next generation of adventurers to destroy the evil in their time. You do that by creating allies, tools, locations, and the like for them, as well as delaying the big bad's return to the world depending on how well you trounce it before it mashes you into the ground. Now, I know some of you are seeing one of the big appeals of this game already. Prequel is the best way I have ever found to create an entire campaign at the table, using tools and mechanics sourced from world-building games like Microscope, but sharpened by a long playtesting process. Prequel doesn't just provide you with a night of storytelling fun, it also builds out a whole world, full of regions, people, events, and whatever else you and your players might come up with as you play the game. It does this with a simple mechanic that I find to be remarkably inspired, because Prequel isn't just a storytelling game, but a tactics game with several unique classes who each have their own abilities and vibes. In Prequel, when you use an ability, a couple of things happen. Firstly, you do the thing, right? You shoot the minion or the big bad with your bow, or you cut them down with your blade or magic or whatever it might be, but then you answer a prompt attached to the ability where you flash back and introduce something new into the history of your hero's tale. This could be a time where you tricked a foe and you got something out of them, or where you struck first and it saved lives, or where mercy prevailed, or you protected the innocent. This builds out a tapestry of the story, and this activity is focused even further as you try to complete mechanical legends, which are small narrative arcs in your story as prompted by the game master, and which helps you unlock more power-filled abilities and more narrative prompts. I am super hype about this game. I got to play it, and it definitely does what it says on the tin. If you like what you're hearing, consider using my affiliate link in the description below to go pledge, and I'll see a portion of the money that you put towards this awesome indie project. But for now, back to the video. Part 3, the cost of power. So, armed with inspiration from Prequel, let's get into actually solving these two problems, giving players something to look forward to outside of leveling up, and giving the players a mechanical imperative to tell their story. Let's start with the first one. I want the ultimates to be the cool thing players are looking forward to. And I want them to charge their ult by using their core mechanics, thereby inspiring use of their character in the way they are written and reducing the "I can't use it, I might need it later" plague that I find at many of my tables. For example, with the Ranger, I want the ultimate to be charged by damage dealt using their Hunter's Mark. I want this threshold to be controlled, but also still have the randomness and gambling fun that the dice give to D&D. So I think I want to count up only the damage on the d6 that the spell itself does. By this metric, if I set the threshold at 40, a character in the first tier of play will be hitting their ultimate once every 7 to 8 encounters, or what in the games I play at those low levels tends to be like 4 or 5 sessions. best part about this is that it's easy to adjust. So if you do have a low combat game, you can turn it down by 10. Or if you're always fighting, you can turn it up by 10. Now at a low level, they will probably level up once or twice by the time they charge their ult, so hitting that milestone is gonna feel very special. And that is when I introduce my next mechanic. Every time a player uses an ultimate, they unlock a legacy. And they take some kind of token or marker to let them know that their legacy is on the line. The next time the party takes a long rest or has another narratively appropriate break, the player picks from a list of legacy prompts. They're kind of like journal prompts about their character's past. They then have to fulfill that prompt somehow. Now, the legacy prompt could be fulfilled in a conversation around the campfire with the other party members. I think I owe you all an explanation, after the sorcerer suddenly erupts with power. Or as a one-on-one with another player or a trusted NPC, or as a flashback or anything, really. It could be a song, a poem, a story, heck, it could be a painting, or just a hint of something dark and hidden, or half forgotten. Now, the prompts are going to be related to my player's class and their powers. Maybe to their species or background could be cool as well, but they are designed to help players get out of that trap of, I never talk about my past, and I don't know when to bring it up, so I just end up being super mysterious the whole time. But not just that, it also gives players the opportunity to do interesting storytelling moments and enables players who do love talking about their past to do the thing that they love the most, while maybe reducing the frequency with which they insert it into inappropriate moments. Showing your players the prompts beforehand could also engender some awesome lonely play, as players maybe pre-write scenes or stories, or heck, draw comics, or who knows what, to fulfill their upcoming legacy prompts. I love this mechanic. I've played with something like it already in my Mothership Masks video, Zap. But I think it really fits into D&D and provides a mechanical reason to evoke the play that we love so much in this game. Okay, we did it. We made ultimates, and I made them something else we look forward to, and I linked them into players trauma dumping their 12-page backstory in a constructive way. And honestly, all of this is thanks to Prequel. Again, if you enjoyed any of this, you should check it out using my affiliate link down below in the description. I did get to play through a session with James Quigley, one of the creators, and another playtester, and we made a city built over a mega dungeon where a manipulative corporate fiend exploited adventurers to delve into it. And in the end, my hero sacrificed himself and turned into a ghost ready to haunt the next generation of adventurers. And I could not imagine how cool it would be if I could come back next session and play a warlock that had that ghost as their patron. Super cool stuff. Okay, the Ranger and Bard Ultimates are up on my Patreon right now. Also, link is also in the description. And if you want to help me build the rest of the Ultimates and get access to the playtest materials, consider pledging at the $10 level and I'll get you set up. There's a little bit of onboarding to do. Thank you so much for watching this far. Please comment if you got this far with your favorite emoji or thoughts that you have about this mechanic or things that you would do differently. Don't forget to like as well. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and hit that notification bell to personalize how often you want to hear from me. Thanks for watching to the end. A special thank you to my patrons. I can't do this without you. Stay miles away from boredom, and I'll see you next time. Oh my goodness, loaf of bread, boy. Any thoughts about the video, Tupac? Yeah? Okay. Oh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Oh. Okay. Oh. 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 Tupac, I'll get banned.